Good morning and happy Monday, everybody. It's John and Heather here from the Say Yes Movement podcast. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Hello, Heather, and good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Don. I am still in Houston. Well, actually, sorry, Austin. Austin.
Austin, did you
I
get
don't
those?
even know what to say.
Did you get those donuts that you talked about on Friday?
We did not. We saw
Uh,
them. They didn't look that appetizing, and then we decided we can pass on the sugar. So we're gonna miss
I'm
donuts
like,
this time.
I'm like, wait a
I
minute.
know.
I want to get some donuts this week. That's so awesome. I love it. I love it. I love
You know
it.
what? If you're at the airport, I might bring them home, but yeah, no, not yet. So
Wow, it's one of those you can't miss, right? And it's interesting that like I asked the question only because I wanted to continue the conversation from where we finished off on Friday. But the donuts is when I think about the donuts and it being the one thing that everybody recommended, or at least the Uber drivers that you connected with, we talked about. It's almost like it's a cultural thing for them.
yeah,
Um,
proud. There's pride around, this is our town and this is something that's uniquely only here. And I think that sense of pride. And actually, John, there's a crazier phenomenon going on. So three of our Uber drivers told us about the local shopping center chain grocery store. So it's called
okay,
HEB, HEB. It looks like a Safeway or any grocery store. And three of them, unsolicited, told us that this is the top chain in anywhere because of their customer service, because of their quality, because of like a grocery store. I have never in my life heard anyone go, Loblaws is the best. Like it's not something that just comes out of your mouth. Three of them, unsolicited, told us about this chain called HEB. So, that tells me that it doesn't matter what business you're in, because we're all in the business of serving people and making them feel a certain way. When you do that right, no matter what your product is, what you're doing, because you're in the world of service, people will talk about you. And
Mm,
even if you're a grocery store. So, do not let what you sell or what you do for a living say, oh, no one's going to talk about me. They will talk about you if you're doing something really good, and they will talk about you if you're doing something really bad. If you're on the
yeah.
average scale, no one's talking about you. If you are on those other two sides, people are talking, and they're telling tourists, they're telling people in the car, they're telling their friends and family. Think of the impact of an Uber driver. How many people are in their car every single day, and they're telling stories about customer service experiences. It was
Wow.
actually really neat to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that I've never heard of anybody, talk about grocery chains before. I'm like, it's like, oh my
No.
gosh, Fortino's down the street is the best. I've never have I ever heard. Maybe we should
No,
do a
there's
segment.
nothing
Never have I
wrong
ever
with
heard.
there's nothing wrong with Loblaws for Tino's. They're where I go get my groceries, and they have sales, and I like that. And I'm not telling anyone that's where I go grocery shopping because it's just where I go grocery shopping. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So what I'm
I don't know.
hearing,
So
yeah. So I
yeah,
want to
go
play
for
it.
it.
I want to play it back for everybody. So what I'm hearing, two things make you stand out: either being incredibly horrible at what you do, just so bad that nobody wants to see you, so everybody's talking about you. It's almost like the when I think about the expression, there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's publicity, right? And the other is you're doing some amazing things to stand out and really be special in terms of your marketplace in the
Hmm.
marketplace. And regardless of the business that you're in, if you go above and beyond, and I think about Gunjan's on the call right now, so he's in the real estate industry, and that's what he does. From my experiences and interactions with him, I know he's an amazing person, always trying to up level in terms of educating his clients and serving them. It's the one thing that makes you stand out, right? Like, going above and beyond, giving people that added touch is is really what makes it special. And I think about the work that you used to do, back in your corporate position, where you took everybody inside of your group, and elevated them to create that special touch point for the interactions with all their customers. And you did it with 5,000 people, right? So from a cultural perspective, like,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Like, how do you get there? How do you get to a place where you're setting a high standard for the people around you?
Well, we've heard this saying so many times, but it has a lot of meaning to me, which is lead by example. So whatever you as a leader accept or do yourself, other people will observe it and then they will follow or emulate or model. And so you really have to have a clear picture of what is it that you want to project into the world, and then what do you want other people to take and elevate to the next level. And culturally, it doesn't matter if it's 5 people, 10 people, 5,000 people. Everyone's watching and following the leader. So, our behaviors, how we say good morning, how we show up for meetings, how we show up on time, it all matters. And I have a really good example. So I've been at a conference all this weekend, and this conference, was there was 350 people that came. All of us are strangers, so nobody knows anyone. And what's neat about these kinds of conferences is that 300 people come to one location, all with the intent to learn and develop and grow. And but there's no culture because we don't know each other. But let me tell you, culture is established so quickly because we all have the same intention. So there's a unique quality of connection right away. So you can talk to people, we're all wearing name tags, so it's easy to make that connection. But there's this phenomenon that happened over this conference, and the leader didn't start on time, and it got progressively worse over the 3 days. And when I say not on time, I'm not talking 5 minutes. I'm talking like 45 minutes late, 2 hours late, like very, very, very long time. And so I am always on time, or I like to. It is a goal of mine to be on time. I think it's very respectful to be on time for people. I think it says to them that you matter, and my time is very valuable as well. So that's the meaning that I put on not being on time. It's just my meaning. It's just my experience. And so each day, as that was happening, the third day, guess what happened? I showed up a half an hour late. And that is not my normal behavior, but I followed the leader. And I actually followed it for respect for my time because if he's not going to stay if he's not going to start for 45 minutes late, then I'm going to also be late. I just, as I was thinking about how it was affecting me this moment, I was thinking, oh, this is what happens in corporations. This is what happens when leaders, do something all the time, and people come to expect that behavior, and then they change their behavior too. So I was letting it all sink in, like, why is this sort of bothering me? Like, it really did bother me quite a bit. And then why does it bother me? And then how do I see this happening? 300 people were following the same process. There's lots of people that were late, but they weren't late. They were on time. They were still there on time. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Dungeon's asking if it's audio quality. No, no, I don't know. Like, are you having it?
yeah, no, I'm hearing you come in just a little choppy from time to time, so I don't know if
Oh,
it's just your headphones. Um, but yeah, so I'll let Heather kind of take a quick look at that. But you know, as you were saying that, the one thing that showed up for me is how quickly culture is formed. Like within a
mhm.
span of a weekend, this leader of this event, this conference, has already set the standard that within the first day, you're like, okay, maybe he's just late because he's setting up or he's doing something different. The second day, by the third day, you've already created a culture of what is acceptable within that I'm gonna within the conference, but within an organization too, right? It doesn't take a long
Mhm.
time to let people know what the expectations are, what it's going to be like day to day, and what it really means for the organization. Like, who are we? So, when I talk about, and I'm coaching individuals that are walking through organizations and doing interviews, I'm like, look around, look at how people are interacting with each other, look at how people are talking to one another. Are people even talking to one another? Is everybody heads down? Is everybody just focused on their one thing? That is culture, and it happens like this. Like it just,
Yes.
it's so quick, and it comes down to the leader that really dictates what's accepted and what's not accepted. And if you think about your own business, right? For those that are listening, that are leaders inside of organizations or independent business owners, as you're building out your team, what are your expectations of people? But even before that, what are your expectations of people? What's expectations of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Is being on time critical for you? Right? And we think about time is money. That's the expression that we always use. But time is the greatest resource that we have. And if you don't respect the greatest resource that we have is time, because time is not infinite, time is limited, right? Because we all know there's only so much time that we're going to be here. We don't know how much that is. But if you don't respect that one piece, 100%, I'm with you, Heather. There's a certain speaker that I like to go to, and he's always late, but we know he's always late. But even even though he's late, it's always a giant show in terms of what he's doing, and he's done
Yeah.
enough pre-work that we know even when he's late, there's still value being added, right? Whether we're
Mm-hmm.
dancing in the aisles, we're getting our energy pumped up, we're taking ourselves to a whole new level. But that's an anticipation of him being on stage. But the culture is still, respect, it's value. And even though he's late in terms of time, schedule wise, you're still going to get a load of value that, like as long as that's there, I think that's kind of okay because it's anticipation. It builds you up, it gets you excited. But if that's not happening and it's just like they show up and it's like, all
Well,
right,
I
they're
think
late.
I
Yeah.
think, John, the other piece too is in the corporate culture, let's say I'm following the leader, meeting's over 20 times, so I start 20 minutes late, so that means it's 15 minutes late. And then one day my boss comes to me and says, "Hey, why are you late?" I don't get to say to him, "Well, you never start on time," because now we're in friction point. But we're at a odds for why we're not aligned for what actually should be the culture. So it eliminates your ability to give feedback to somebody else to say, "Hey, this isn't the culture that I want to create." So not only if you don't emulate the behavior that you want right away, you actually can't even give feedback to people about it either. So it's really let me try
Yeah, well,
take over
no,
now.
but yeah, you're right. It does create a friction when the leader's acting a certain way and you're following their lead, and then they question you on why you're doing it the way they're doing it, right? And the one thing that shows up for me, or the one line, growing up as a youth, I heard from certain individuals, and it till this day it still bugs me. And the line is, do as I say, not as I do. I don't know if anybody's heard that line. If you're in the chat, just say, have you ever heard that line? Do as I say, not as I do. And I start to wonder, are you setting the right example if you have to say something like that? Your actions, the things that you do, are way more powerful than the words that you say, right? Because people always, I think about a parent, right? Like if a parent wants a child to act a certain way, they have to be the example of what that looks like. If it means, hey, I want you to go to bed early, then the parent should go to bed early. Like you just kind of set the example for the children around you. Like if you're sending your kids off to bed at 8 o'clock, and you're up till like midnight watching television, and at some point they're going to catch you doing that. Like, is that really the right example that you're setting for your kids? And it's the same in the workplace, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're, yes, Felicia says she's heard it before, but it's the same in the workplace, right? If you show up to your meetings, like I know, in my past life, in my corporate life, when I was inside of an organization, it was a cultural norm to be 5 minutes late for every meeting because everybody's meetings were late, and it's like, oh, there's like a 5 minute grace period in between meetings, and I always felt
And
like,
that was
well,
said, John, that was
yeah,
said out loud, like, "Oh, well, I met the 5 minute grace period." That was an excuse
yeah,
I heard people say.
yeah, no, 100%. Like, but this became a norm, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what ended up happening, like, I'm very respectful of time, right? Like, and the one thing, even within my own teams, I've always said, start on time, finish on time. My expectation is never for you to work late, right? If you want to work late, that's a choice. But you don't have to. Like, just do what you need to do in the time that you have, and then just go home, be with your family. Like we talk about work-life balance, right? We talk about leadership from a perspective of making sure that the people around you are happy. And how you do that is, do your job when you have to do your job, but then go spend time doing the other things once you're done. So if your cutoff is 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time that is for you and your team, you shouldn't be sticking around till 7 o'clock doing things, right? Like, be respectful. We talk about creating balance. We talk about, creating a work environment where people are respected and appreciated. Respect and appreciation doesn't always mean buying stuff and, giving people certificates and awards. It's like, go home on time.
Well,
I remember
go
saying
home in
that to
time.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go home in time. And, I want to talk about this cultural norm. So if, let's say you want to reverse something, let's say you want to change something in your culture, it's hard to unravel the learned behaviors of people. And how's the sound now? I switched something.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
perfect.
coming through a little better.
Good. And so the learned behaviors, and people don't believe. So on day 2, he actually said, I promise you we will come back on time. And so we came back on time, and he didn't start on time. So his promise was broken. And then that gave permission for the 3rd day for us to be a half hour late. So, that is, if you're making promises, you have to keep them. And if you want to reverse sort of a cultural norm that's been established, just in 24 hours, a cultural norm was established in this conference. That same cultural norms are established in the workplace all the time. So, especially when you're trying to say, okay, team, let's commit to a new behavior. We all know how tough change is, especially when it's a learned behavior. So people are going to watch and wait and see. And if the leader doesn't make the change, they're not going to make the change either. It's not what's being modeled for them. And modeling is so, so important. So my takeaway is culture is formed immediately with human beings because they want that connection and they want to be part of a group, and they'll behave the same way. Even if it's against the person's values, they're going to activate another value. So for me, I gave myself permission to be late, called it on time because it's on time for this new time zone that I'm in. And I also said, well, I'm going to respect myself first. That's the value that I put on top of my time is valuable. And so I'm going to spend it somewhere else instead of worrying about waiting for this conference to start. And so I had to make a decision about what's the most valuable out of all of the 2 values, right? Being on time or respecting myself. Respecting myself came first. And so I was okay with being late. But I wish I didn't have to make that choice.
No, but I also think about, when we talk about building rapport with somebody, right? We talk about, like, so him saying, I'm going to be, we're going to come back on time, and him not keeping his promise, like, the level of trust starts to go down, right? It's like saying you're going to get back to somebody and then you don't get back to somebody. You're breaking that, like, it's just so much harder to restore trust after you've broken it. So don't break it in the first place, right? Like, follow through on your commitments, do the things you say you're going to do, especially especially when it comes to your clients, your colleagues, the people that you work with on a regular. If you don't keep those commitments to them, they're going to see you as the person, like, they never follow through. They're never going to call. They're never going to give me what they said they're going to give me because that's just not the way they operate. Right. So it really starts to break down culture. It starts to break down trust. And when you think about collaboration, with the people around you, it's like, I can't trust this person enough to deliver this. Right. And I think about people who lose out on opportunities inside of organizations. It's because they're not keeping the word to themselves and to the people around them. And that's huge.
It's so true.
Right.
It's so true. And go back to the beginning of our conversation. Uber drivers are talking about grocery chains. If you keep promises, if you honor who you are, if you show up and really honor the people around you and provide a service, they will become raving fans and they will tell other people about it. John, me and you are in the referral business. Our clients come to us because someone else said we did a good job for them, and like, it's our bread and butter. So we have have to do a really good job, but we do it because it's part of our value system. So, do a check-in. What are the norms that annoy you maybe in a corporate world? And are you part of that problem, or are you part of that solution? And I think that might be, what's that one thing that you want to change in your organization, in your team, culturally? And then is it part of the norms right now? And what are the action plans that you're going to do? Change is hard. Change is not going to be easy. But if you demonstrate as a leader, it can be very impactful in a positive way. So I think that might be the call to action.
Yeah, no, yeah. So just take time, do some reflection, and are you being who you want everybody else to be? Are you being an example of that?
It's time, John. How did it get to time already? My God.
It goes by quick, Heather. Absolutely. All right, so that is us for Monday, and we're gonna have a copy of this loaded up to our podcast channel, so you can check it out there if you want to listen to it again. But yeah, no, go take a minute, reflect on what's showing up for you, and are you a model of that to the people around you? Is that what you want? What you're expecting of others, are you doing it yourself? And I think that's a great little exercise to start the week off with, because it really sets the standard for how the rest of the week's going to go. Okay, so that is it for us. And remember, when you change your mindset, you change your life. With that, have an amazing Monday, everybody, and we'll be back on Wednesday. Take care.